gentlemen, good evening. Hi, Bob. For all mankind.
Which one? There's two.
No, there's many of us here. Maybe we're all Bobs tonight.
Could be.
But for all mankind, season 1, episode 7. Hi, Bob. Is over, and it has been since 2019. But we're just getting started here in 2025 as we continue our mission to watch every episode of For All Mankind and talk about it. I'm Dave Mader. We're streaming here live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch. Oh, you might be listening to us on audio version. Happy Victoria Day to those who celebrate. Happy Patriots Day to those in Quebec. I don't know what it's just. I think it's just Victoria Day in Newfoundland, right, Sam? Because we got people, yes, in our live chat, including Sam from Newfoundland and others. We got a great panel here to break it down. Coming up first, it's Bob Millard.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Coming in next, we got Bob Simpson.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good to see you, Bob.
All right.
We got Bob Woodward, who I think is some kind of reporter, maybe.
Robert to you.
Okay, Robert. Okay, gotcha. And coming in next, it's Roberta herself. It's Heather Narduzzi.
You can call me Bob. Hi, okay. Bob. I'm famed heterosexual Heather Narduzzi, all ready for my totally real and not at all fake wedding.
Oh, yes. You're coming in as the bride, I see here.
Yes. A very straight bride. Ready.
I'm so glad somebody explained that to me because I just
no reluctance.
No, I was like, I didn't quite put it together when I first saw you as we were, gearing up for the show. But
I just thought Heather was trying to show off those sweet tats.
Even my pods matched my wedding look. We had Bluetooth AirPods
as earrings.
Right?
Well, this is an alternate universe. They might have already had them. Yes,
they might have had it.
Maybe. Spoilers if you've not seen For All Mankind, season 1, episode 7. Hi, Bob. Or maybe.
And if you haven't, why are you watching this?
Yeah, or if you've not watched, I guess, an episode of the Bob Newhart show from like 1974, that we might spoil aspects of that. So get ready. Yeah, and so this, of course, is the 7th episode of the show. It takes place between October 12th, 1974, and December 14th, 1974. Written by Ronald D. Moore, personally, and directed by Mira Menon. And in this episode, the crew of Apollo 22, which consists of Ed, Gordo, and Danielle, struggle with the extended stay on Jamestown as they keep getting delayed to be relieved from their mission. And dare I say, cabin fever might be setting in on Gordo.
That is clearly space madness.
Space madness, space dysphoria.
Does anybody not follow Ren and Stimpy? Like, come on.
Space madness.
Madness.
Okay, I like it. I'm willing to go with it. There's also some. I'm trying to think what the other. Well, of course, the Ellen plot line and her and Pam and. Mr.
I'm
Wilson
already bored with
Larry
that
Wilson.
Line, by the way.
You're bored with it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. It's gonna matter more as things go on.
I hope so.
Yeah. Is there? Yeah. They in this episode they get married to kind of escape the FBI, inquisition of what's going on with their sex lives, or not to get branded as. All the bad
they don't
things.
get why that's something that's really of relevance at all, but
so sad.
Yeah,
the sexuality of the characters, like why is that relevant to NASA?
Because
it wasn't actually. It was relevant to the FBI.
The FBI
that's
specifically.
true. It was the FBI. Yeah,
they're worried that they'll be blackmailed by Soviet agents and others. And they could use that to use their security clearance.
Really, it's an excuse to persecute supposed queer people.
Well, it is that as I think it's more that, of course. That
yes.
I think that's their excuse in this about why they're doing it, because it's the only possible justification. But it's
so if I have sex with a man, I can't fly a rocket ship. Then is that what it is?
Jody, this was like not new news. This went way like.
I just it's absurd still.
Look at even the Clinton administration with "Don't Ask, Don't Tell." I mean, it was ridiculous. Like,
yeah, that's true. That wasn't that long ago either.
No, it wasn't.
Like, do you remember how it was when we were
Considered
kids?
like progressive, queer-friendly legislation. Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, so friendly. Yeah, no,
We don't want to know anything. La 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 la.
Mm.
That's literally what that was.
I heard that they're talking about going back to that or something. I don't
Oh, well, why not?
know. Because that
What is wrong with this world?
Well, where do you start? But let's get into it, everybody. Kevin, what did you think of this episode?
It was good. I like Gordo going mad. That was fun.
Hold on, he was going crazy? I thought that
Yeah.
was just Gordo.
Or was he the only one who was sane?
I'm just kidding.
Mm.
I like that, like them up at the beginning, like they seem like they're getting along a little better, a little more of a team than they have been. And then
They're
stuff with,
treating the girl a lot more like,
yeah, like
part
an
of the
actual
crew.
astronaut. Yeah,
Yeah, because she is.
yeah.
Mm.
But not a ton in this episode. I didn't find.
There's very few plot lines, really. The only other one we haven't really touched on yet is with Karen and Shane, and there's some trouble.
Tracy and Danny.
And Tracy and Danny as well,
Mhm.
yes. But yeah, I guess a little bit more emphasis on the Karen and Shane of it because, at the end there's this cliffhanger of the episode that there's been some kind of accident with Shane.
Yeah, and I don't want to know
Yeah.
anything past that. Thank you.
And we're not going to.
Can we just say, and we'll get more into it as we go, but like Ed and Karen Baldwin not winning the parenting awards. Like, really?
No.
No, they're really not, but one of them has a good excuse. Right now, anyway.
Well, but they're still excuse. Like the thing is, okay, like when I watched like some of those scenes in this episode and in the previous episodes, when they're not the what we would consider good parenting, but it's very familiar to me.
It's kind of funny because when we first started this, the blonde girl who is the other mother, I can't remember her name. Tracy, and I didn't actually like her character that much, and I actually liked Ms. Baldwin instead.
You like Karen more.
Yeah, I liked Karen more, and now it's completely reversed. Now it's like I like the other one better,
Okay.
and I'm not a big fan of Karen anymore.
Karen stock is going down in Jody
Big time.
in the Jody
Yeah.
market.
It went up a little bit when she slapped her kid, though. I have to admit, just a bit. I'm just kidding.
You liked her more or less after that?
I'm kidding.
All right.
It was an off-color joke.
Okay, gotcha. Well, who would have thought with you, Jody?
It didn't land well either.
It's all good. Heather, is there anything you wanted to mention in this episode that stood out for you? We talked about the Ellen and Larry, a little bit of it.
I liked this episode. Even though it was a slow burn and kind of like setting things up for sure, there wasn't a lot of action going on, but we did see some significant things happening, such as, if you recall at the end, when we were talking about at the end of last week's episode, where Gordo saw the red lights and we were speculating, like, were they real or were they not? I'm really glad they talked about that in this episode, because the other two seem to think they were not real, because they refer to them as like Gordo's blinky red lights and that, and he's getting upset about the ants, and Ed's kind of like, listen, nobody's making fun of your ants. Okay. So we can tell just from that little interaction that he's starting to lose it. And then we see the tracks leading up. So they know the Soviets have been there. So it's not just paranoia, so some things did happen, some things did get moving. So I do like this episode, and I thought it was really fun the way that they were interacting about the Bob Newhart show, which to us in 2025 is like, do people like this?
Why is this funny? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get the Bob Newhart show. Maybe Bob
Some
Woodward
television
as our
definitely didn't
resident
end
Mhm.
old fella.
Oh, poor Adam. Adam,
I'm not the oldest.
You are the senior here, the senior podcaster. Now,
just for the record, I was 1 when this aired. Okay.
Okay.
But
were you?
I'm going to talk about Bob Newhart fun facts here because there's not a lot of other facts to talk about. So
well, yeah. So Ronald D. Moore, as we mentioned, wrote this episode. He's born in 1964, so I feel like he's talking about his own childhood growing up watching the show.
Yeah, but I can't even believe it was funny for a 10-year-old. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't get it. And that's there
Have
are
you
some
ever watched Laverne and Shirley.
I love Laverne and Shirley. That was fun.
I mean, there were only like 4 shows on TV ever at that time. So like
a few more than 4, but there
was Bob Newhart, there was Lawrence Welk, there was Johnny Carson, and the Honeymooners. That's it.
No, there was Hee Haw was on at that point.
Isn't that the same thing as Lawrence Welk?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. Anyway, we're getting off topic here.
I wasn't around, guys. I wasn't there, so I'll take your word.
Yeah, you're the youngest. Piss off.
Yeah, especially with Jeff not here, I have to claim it. Okay, so let's get into this episode. Adam, was there anything? Sorry, I didn't really get your top level. If there was anything other than Bob Newhart,
this was just a sad episode. I didn't come out feeling so good about this episode. I don't know what you guys. I watched it about 3 or 4 today. Yeah, I usually come out pumped, ready to talk about this, and I'm not as engaged as I usually am. I found this episode a difficult one.
This episode is definitely an in-between episode. I think the main thing they're going for in this episode is like there's this struggle. The early days of this base on the moon were not easy. I think is the main message of this episode, and this is what we're trying to really convey here is that it wasn't like, oh, we just went to the moon and then like we had a base, right away. It took a lot of effort and sacrifice and hard work to get it. I think especially after we had this 2-year time jump in the middle of the season, I think they wanted to maybe stretch this part out and make this feel a little bit more.
But you know what? It's a good observation because when you think about the real Jamestown or the real any colony. When they laid down roots anywhere, it's not easy. You got your first winter, you got your first, engagement with whoever. Like it's not easy anytime you're going somewhere and putting down.
Yeah, and living on the moon where there's not much to do, nowhere to go. You're living with 2 other people in like a little tin can, basically a pressurized tin can, getting exposed to all kinds of radiation, presumably.
But all these people are parents, aren't they? So they welcome this moon. They're like, oh, it's so quiet.
Not Danielle, not yet.
Oh, that's right. She's not.
Right. So, okay, let's get into it, everybody. Our little visual screenshots we'll run through here and talk about what we saw in the episode. We start off here with a shot of Shackleton Crater at Jamestown. The Apollo 20 crew is now residing for 86 days up here as we catch up with them on they're talking to mission control, including Margot and Neil Armstrong is now running the astronaut office. Everybody,
Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, it's Buzz Aldrin. Sorry, Buzz Aldrin is running the astronaut office now because Deke is training for the mission. He's getting ready to be an astronaut, so he's not running the astronaut office at the moment.
I can't wait for Deke to get to the moon.
Deke's headed to the moon, everybody. Get ready. The moon may never be the same again. So
he's going to deke it up.
He's going to triple deke it, just like the Mighty Ducks. So they get in this conversation that they're going to be here for another 2 weeks. This will be one of many delays that we'll get in this episode. That they're constantly waiting. The crew here of Ed and Danielle and Gordo to be relieved, but it is not coming. And
NASA's answer is always 2 weeks, apparently.
It's always, we'll be up in 2 weeks because they're trying to figure out the design flaw that led to that other, to the Michael Collins crew and all that getting kind of destroyed. I guess that was Apollo 23, right?
That was the one that was going up to help them. Because
they're 22.
They're 22, and now Deke and the rest are coming up in 24 to relieve them, but that hasn't quite come to pass yet. So they're like telling them to hang tight up there, and
what other options do they have?
Yeah, we're gonna send you up some things. Anyway, then they go off the air here, and Mr. political here.
The warden of Shawshank.
But he's not the warden of Shawshank.
I know he's not, but he looks like him, and I can't remember his name. So
yeah, the guy runs for the Ted Kennedy guy.
I'm tired, boss. I'm tired.
Mm.
Anyway, so back here on the moon.
Green Mile. That was Green Mile.
That was Green Mile. Damn it!
Green Mile.
I almost had a good one.
The crew of Apollo 22 up at Jamestown, they're watching the Bob Newhart show, and there's this other guy who they name in dialogue. They even say he was on Star Trek. And
Wolf in the Fold.
Wolf in the Fold. He's Red Jack. He's Jack the Ripper from that original series episode.
I'm so glad that was a real reference, because I hate it in TV when they make something that they could have used a real fact and they just use nonsense instead. Like, it would have taken you 1 second to use the real thing there. So good job on Ronald D. Moore, who I expect nothing less from.
And so in the For All Mankind universe, Star Trek is a thing, right? Like, this has been fully established.
It's now canon for sure.
Yeah. So will there still be a Star Trek: The Next Generation in this universe? I wonder.
Probably not.
I would like to point out that in the first scene we see of them, everybody is very freshly shaved, clean cut, like obviously still really looking after themselves. But then the next scene we see Gordo. He's got a bit of stubble. His hair's a bit of a mess. And as the episode goes on, we see that they're really good in this show at storytelling with people's appearances as well. And I always notice
the makeup and like just the level of shaving and I think just what the actors bring to it as well.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're up here. They're watching the Bob Newhart show. They're having, they're reciting the lines and everything else. Oh, there's this whole part in the opening scene too where Ed says, "Pass me this case, Danielle," and Danielle like throws it over, and because of the moon gravity being 1/6, it just kind of like floats across the room, over to Ed.
Which it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
It should fall a little bit.
It'll fall. It won't fall at the same rate that it would.
So it was interesting because that happened, but the ant trap fell right to the ground and smashed open.
It felt kind of slower.
Well, it felt slow. They showed it as slow.
So are you saying that, like, I don't know what the physics are on the moon? Is this not what it would be?
Well, because there is gravity, something does eventually pull to the core.
Right, but the arc would be long. The harder she
long.
pushes that, the less it would go down. It would take
that's
longer
true.
for it to arc.
There you go.
The physics work.
The physics do work good, yeah.
So then would the ant trap hit hard enough to break open?
Unclear. that I noticed.
Actually, no, it shouldn't, because the gravity is not as hard.
But I guess the right angle if it hits the ground.
So, guys, can you go back, please? When did this grin freak you out at all?
Yes, and I loved every minute of it.
This is space madness grinning.
I now like Gordo.
And you know what I noted in this episode when he's this grin and like when he starts to get a bit like wild-eyed, he could have played, it's giving like Joker vibes. Like with that very wide smile and the wild eyes a bit.
He definitely has some of it. Yeah, you're right.
I always feel like this guy should be in 50 Shades of Grey, but he's not the guy from 50 Shades of Grey. But anyway,
I'm not sure why you want him in the 50 Shades.
I think he kind of looks like him to me.
Like a whole other podcast.
Isn't the guy in 50 Shades of Grey like Jamie Doran or something? And this guy's Jamie.
I haven't.
Sounds like you know an awful lot about 50 Shades of Grey, Dave.
My wife is into it. Okay, so
and therefore he's into it.
No, I'm on the peripheral. Anyway, well, I hope that is true or accurate with the way they pass that case across, because I feel like that's the thing they don't really do enough on the moon when they try to show bases on the moon, which is usually like in James Bond movies or that kind of thing. But it's the gravity is less, and pulling that off in a more realistic.
Kevin
way.
makes a good point though with the with the velocity of the push. It could have definitely not even arced. Yeah, you're right.
It's falling 1/6 at the speed, right? As it would on Earth, right? So
1/6 of the force.
So if you drop that case, it would fall to the ground in a second, right? So it would take 6 seconds.
It would take.
No, it would take 1.6 seconds, wouldn't it?
Okay, we're here to do a podcast, guys. Can we just
We're all really
move
good
back
at fractions and math, I think.
I
Maybe
was
Heather.
told there would be no math.
Like, I wouldn't have partaken in things before I started this podcast if I knew I had to think about it.
If an ant farm falls on the moon and it hits the ground, does it make a sound and break open everybody, or does it just?
It does, and if you're a woman and you dropped it, none of the dudes are going to help you clean it up either.
But if
No.
you notice, it's not actually broke. That's actually the latch that you opened to put stuff in, right?
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't shatter.
No, it
kinda-
just opened. It opened
just-
when it hit the ground.
I feel like the fact that it fell so slowly and you let it hit the ground is your own fault, though.
Absolutely.
She could have caught that.
She had tons of time to at least try to react to it anyway. She
or
didn't
put it-
even react to it. It hit the ground before she even moved.
And they don't care. They're all like focused on whatever they're doing here. And
Now,
it's just-
I have to go with Gordo on this one, though. You got random ants running around in what is probably a bunch of cable that is very loosely laced with something. So with that, yeah, you might have a problem with ants. I don't know.
But Jody, we know from The Simpsons that if the ants get out in space, you just get Homer Simpson to eat them up like potato chips or something.
Yeah.
And that would be the.
I'm not
solution.
sure you watched that episode.
Well, there was something.
But
like that.
anyway,
Maybe there were no ants. I don't remember.
I don't recall Homer ever eating the ants, but
He ate the
all right.
potato chips. They're like,
did.
don't get those chips, but you can eat the ants if they're chocolate covered. Anyway, so so we see here that
What
Gordo
has this
by
podcast turned into?
I don't
That's
know.
what I want to know.
By the end of this scene, the opening scene, Gordo is just like fixated on his Bob Newhart show. It's the only thing that gives him joy. It's his only sort of like solace here. Is he's not super happy, I guess, about his extended.
I
stay
would
on
be
the moon.
watching Star Trek episodes and probably
Well, you wouldn't.
reruns
Or the
reruns
network
of
said
The Office.
probably-
There are no reruns yet.
Well,
and
that's
the,
true.
the network said problems given like, hey, I was a little surprised to see a VHS tape up there.
They talked about this episode like we can't have people tape in their VHSs or their shows. Then we'll get the ad revenue
Yeah.
for the commercials.
Still fast forward the commercial.
Nobody had VHS or Betamax tapes back then.
Not in 1974.
No.
No.
Oh, that's a
Yes,
good.
I
That's a
did.
fun fact. Gonna look that up.
Well,
Look
maybe
it
the
up.
astronauts. Maybe the astronauts got it because they were ahead of the curve. Maybe, but
I'm pretty sure there was VHS tapes and then.
they
Well, there
even
probably
do.
was, but it wasn't like popular. Out there, like you couldn't go to Best Buy and pick one up.
Right. They even do a freeze frame on Gordo's face here when they go to the title card. I
Yeah,
guess-
and actually it threw me for a loop because I thought my completely legitimate copy of this episode had a flaw in it.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, crap, what happened here? And then all of a sudden you get it back again.
I
It's like,
forgot that they had done that. And I remember the first time I watched it, I thought it was a glitch and it got me again this time. And then I remembered, oh, yeah, they did that on purpose. So I
Totally
thought
got
that
me.
Was,
That's what Ronald D. Moore
Hi,
always
Bob.
wanted to do. He's like he just wants to make the Bob Newhart show, I guess. All right, so For All Mankind, we jump into it after the teaser section. We then go to November 9th, 1974, with Danielle speaking with her husband Clayton. From he's down at the in Houston.
this was
here.
pretty much a nothing burger.
Well, he's having a rough go since he's left the military after Vietnam. He's not able to get a job, or he was only able to get a job bagging groceries, I think, or something
Yeah,
like
he was
that.
a grocery bagger,
And he's tortured and depressed.
Listen, this episode's dealing with all kinds of mental health issues. You've got the kid, you've got Clayton here, you've got Gordo here. Like it's all, and then the stress.
Not a lot of happiness going around at the moment.
No, man. Like
So they're having a rough go. Danielle trying to comfort him in this conversation, but eventually, he ends the conversation earlier than their scheduled time, and he kind of walks off. Then the next scene is with Ellen and the FBI guy who is grilling her about Larry being a homosexual.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys are fans of The Office, okay, but is this not the shady sniper guy that Dwight hires?
I haven't watched The Office that much, so
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
I'm gonna
you.
have to look him up. I got to figure out.
he's
where
been
he
in
is.
a lot of like
Driving
Mike
me
Dore
mental.
produced stuff because he did a guest spot on The Good Place and on Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well.
Oh,
And I
maybe
don't
know
remember
who
his
that
name,
is.
but it's definitely him if he was in The Office, because that was Mike Schur as well, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
This actor's name is James Urban Nayak. So he's been around. Anyway, so in this conversation here with Ellen, they talk about her childhood fear of claustrophobia. Her medical records were supposed to be confidential, but he's going through that, for national security purposes. And then he talks about, I don't know your story. You come from this wealthy family and you were a pilot. And why would you be dating Larry, this kind of nobody engineer at NASA? He's not like a high society guy. And he also says, this FBI agent, Gavin Donahue is his name, says to Ellen, I think you may be gay too. And she denies all this. She has all her rehearsed answers about, where her and Larry went on their first date, with their first kiss. It's almost too rehearsed, because she can recite it very quickly, and he's like, you kissed during the scene, like where something happened. I can't remember the specifics.
Ryan's daughter. It was a scene where the Reverend and not the Reverend. Yes, the Reverend and the teacher were making out in the moors of Ireland. It was great. That was a great movie. If you haven't seen it.
You wouldn't have kissed somebody during that?
No, I'd probably be watching the screen because it was pretty intense.
All right.
It was Robert Mitchum, and I don't remember the woman who played the teacher, but man, it was a good scene.
Okay, just checking. Well, Donahue finds it confusing. Ellen is steadfast. She doesn't break here under his pressure, but he's doing his cop thing, and I don't know. Any thoughts on this guy's creepiness and overreach? Nothing.
You know what?
Sucks.
It's that control. Like I find just it makes me so angry, that kind of control and arrogance, that you can just break laws and do things that and for what?
It's happening right now.
No, I
old
know
is new again. It's like, but yeah.
But this whole thing, the way he ends this meeting by I will find out.
Well, the thing, dude, is when they made this in 2019, I feel like there was this aspect of like, this is like the things the way it used to be, right? And like, this is a thing of the past, or an archaic practice. Maybe not in every country in the world, but in the United States, this is a thing of the past. But I don't know. Like, it feels like there's the current political situation is not as certain as it maybe was a couple of years ago. So
well, it's never gone away. If you look at the comments on any post, that's like, I was reading one just yesterday, a post about National Day Against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia, and just reading the comments is absolutely appalling. And you'd think we would have come a lot further than we have, but as you were just saying, Dave, the current political climate has re-emboldened the bigots to come out in full force, and it's gross.
So I guess the lesson for those progressives is like, don't take it for granted, ever, that you think, oh well, we solved that and now it's over. It's so let's moving on. Not quite, not all, certainly not in this situation.
No, before you know it, we're going to have to be fake marrying dudes again.
Hey, I'm just going to step away from it. I'll be right back.
Okay. So then we head over to the outpost where Ellen tells Larry and Pam that, she tried to deny everything, but, she doesn't think he bought it. The FBI guy, they're trying to figure out what to do, but they're very concerned about their careers and, anything else, and their reputations being damaged by all this. It's absolutely
brutal. Like, I feel so bad for Pam, who's getting her heart broken, but also for Ellen. This is not a choice that she wants to make, but a career as an astronaut, as a woman, that's a lot to give up. And she just is faced with a terrible choice. She can't have both.
She can't, and she'll eventually make that choice in this episode. And then while they're having this discussion at the outpost, there's all this stuff with Barbara Walters on the television screen, on the news, about the Kennedy scandal. We talked a bit about this last week in the Palm Beach thing, where I guess Kennedy exposed himself to some staffer that was at, right? Like, Adam, if I'm remembering correctly, the details.
No, it wasn't a staff. It was some girls they met in a bar.
A bar? Okay.
This was relating to the woman from the Chappaquiddick incident who clearly didn't die.
Mary Jo Kopechne.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't die in this timeline, so Kennedy didn't have that scandal. But this scandal was a different one than he did as when he was a senator, right? Like, this was something else that happened a few years later.
Yeah, when he was a senator, he drove this young woman home from a party, drunk drove her and killed her, and then left the scene of the crime. I read about it this afternoon because I wasn't sure what the details were, although I had seen like references to the Chappaquiddick incident.
Yeah,
and in this timeline, he's president and he has been fooling around with her.
Well, the real Chappaquiddick basically derailed his presidency.
His bid for the presidency.
Yeah.
And in this timeline, because there was the episode where he was called back early from that, and that didn't occur, so that she didn't die. But Ted Kennedy was much like his brothers, kind of a philanderer and a womanizer, and not always like.
I believe asshole is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe asshole. So anyway, so he has all this sex scandal going on, but then it's like
Robert Kennedy had that though.
Robert Kennedy just mistresses, I think, just had a lot of like affairs, and I can look it up, but I'm pretty sure he did. And I think he was just maybe a little bit more discreet than his brothers.
The girl who plays Barbara Walters is fantastic.
She got the accent down, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's this whole thing about like they're talking about how Ted Kennedy is like the sexual deviant, and the one that everyone's. They should be concerned with him, not with like people like Ellen and Larry who are just living their lives. Okay, so then the next scene was we see that the Soviet base, Zvezda, whatever the hell it is. And so they show it on the end of the crater, and then they pull back, and we see the other end of the crater with Jamestown base, right? So we're not getting interactions yet with the Soviets, but we know that they're there. And so now we're up to November 10th, 1974, as they're trying to figure out the what frequency that they're reading, and they kind of determine that it's not one of their frequencies, so it has to be the Soviet frequency back to Earth. Right. So Danielle.
Yeah. The only thing I have a problem with this is she's like, oh yeah, and it's encrypted. Number one, with an oscilloscope, there's no way you're going to know that that's encrypted or not. Okay. Like, that's just ridiculous. And on top of that, it's an oscilloscope.
I also laughed at that, Jody. I worked for the CBC for 10 years supporting the transmitters, and I've seen a lot of oscilloscopes in my day, and none of them were used to read encrypted signals on the moon.
Okay, I would not have known any of that, guys. So
that's because you're just a little baby who was born in the 80s, Dave.
That's right. I'm not born yet. I don't know about these scope things or whatever. Or
I have an oscilloscope in my house, so
I only see them in movies.
Electronics.
Oscilloscoping.
Oscilloscoping.
Duh.
He uses it to get the Ruski signals from the moon.
You figure out the signal degradation.
Precisely.
Like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have no clue how to use them. But they're I don't know. Danielle and Ed are trying to get to the bottom. This Gordo is very detached, and this is another indication that and then he drops his tennis ball here that he's throwing against the wall. He starts looking for the tennis ball while they're talking about everything going on with the Soviets, but there's these are these hints we keep getting with Gordo. Something's off with Gordo, as he's going off here. Ed's not paying attention. Danielle's kind of seeing it. Look at those eyes, like on Gordo. That's he thinks he sees the ants down there too. Look at where his ball are.
Personally, I think he's just got the mind of a golden retriever, and he's just looking for that ball.
Well, there's that too. It so
he's got the crazy eyes now.
You got the crazy eyes.
Space madness.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he just goes back to his bunk at the end of the scene, and Danielle, like him and Danielle, starting to butt heads a bit too. Then we go back to Earth, everybody, and to the school here in Houston, where Karen and Tracy are talking to the principal about their kids, who have been yet up to no good, some kind of vandalism. The children's damages are going to cost $150 US, everybody, back in 1974 dollars. And the principal is very concerned with the relationship the boys have. That they've grown up, they're best friends, but the principal says that the lack of discipline in the school, since there is Tracy says maybe it's your fault for not using corporal punishment.
Have you tried beating them?
Have you tried spanking them? She's like, my parents spanked me, and I'm an astronaut.
And I'm an astronaut now, so like, time to be.
Well, she's talking about the paddle.
The paddle. Yeah.
Okay, since I'm the old guy here, I remember them having the strap. I never got the strap, but they still had the strap when I was in.
No.
You saw it used?
I saw it used, and I remember teachers hitting us with like rulers on the back of the head and pulling our ears and all that crap.
Oh, really?
I remember the
God.
pointers. I remember the pointers, and it only happened to be in Sunday school.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I
you
went
were
to
allowed
Sunday
to beat
school for a
children in
while.
God's house. That's fine.
Yeah, God's cool with that.
I mean, it was humiliation was definitely a thing. I mean, one time I was throwing rocks into the tennis courts behind the school, and I had to put my nose on the wall for 3 recesses.
You are a bad boy.
Oh,
Bad boy, Adam.
that's terrible.
And then my dad was a principal, and he had a strap, and I think I have it somewhere. He said he only used it one time when he was going through the education system, but it was a thing.
Yeah, and there was depending on what year you're born, the amount of like discipline and corporal punishment you may have endured varies.
Yeah, I mean the hitting and the pulling of the ears and all that stuff would stopped in grade 2. That's what I remember. So I would have been, I don't know how old you are in grade 2. So
Yeah, it didn't happen in normal like public school for me. It was only in Sunday school.
I never got smacked by a teacher, but I definitely had a lot of teachers who wanted to smack me.
They all wanted to smack me.
Me too.
And don't worry, they were. I was more afraid of my mother than I was afraid of the teachers. There was no strap.
I'd like to point out of the 2 women here, we've talked about before how they style Tracy more modern sometimes, right? This to me is a very modern hairstyle. The like executive bob and the dark roots and the blonde hair.
There are times where they don't feel like women from this era, for sure.
Yeah.
Despite the clothes they're wearing, it's
The
just,
one on the right definitely has the wrong hairstyle. But
Yes,
the one on the left, I
crazy.
think, is accurate.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's also this talk in the episode about how is it Shane's like the leader and Danny's the follower and all this kind of stuff, and Shane's more of the rebellious one, and
Tracy gets upset with that because
Tracy doesn't like it. She's like, no, wait, my son would be the commander of the mission.
They both get upset about it.
They both don't like this.
Yeah. Are you saying my kid's a follower? Are you saying my kid's the ringleader? Like neither one of them is happy about this.
No, they're not. So they kind of storm out. They're going to talk to Superintendent Chalmers or whoever. Yeah, have some steamed hams.
Steamed hams, yeah.
Chalmers.
Yeah, the Aurora Borealis in your kitchen. So they both say, we don't believe it. We don't buy into this. And they kind of walk out here together. Then we go back to the moon and we check in here with the team. It's Ed and Danielle. So they were out looking for the Soviets or see if they could get any kind of sense of what the Soviets were doing, but they didn't really find anything. And when they get back to Jamestown, they're taking off their suits and everything else, and saying, well, I guess we could look at it tomorrow. Oh, they also didn't tell Houston, right, that they were going to like check out what the Soviets were up to.
No, because they don't have an encryption oscilloscope. They only have a decrypted one.
Right.
What happens if the Russians have an oscilloscope? We're screwed.
Yeah. Presumably they would have one. But then Danielle notices Gordo's slot for his suit is out. He is out. So he's left the base unattended while they were out as well and didn't report it, which not a great idea for a few reasons. So anyway, Gordo is out just, skipping around, checking out the moon, clearing his head, looking for an apartment perhaps. And, looking off into the horizon. But, the space madness kicking in here with Gordo.
Space madness.
Yeah. Is he just looking out? like this would, not only are you like cooped up in like this cabin basically, but then when you go outside, yes, you're on the moon and that's kind of amazing, but you're also in basically a desert that's with nothing, right? And so there's not a lot of mental stimulation. I think just it's almost like when people up north, like where they have to experience like 30 days at night, not with the vampires, without the vampires, that they kind of
my brother-in-law, they mandate, like the RCMP, if you're up there, they mandate that you have to leave, like on vacation. You can't just take days off and stay home. You have to leave.
Right.
And go back to civilization.
And so in some ways, it's like being always at night, even though there is sunlight and everything else. And so when Gordo comes back to the base, Ed in particular is pissed off with this, that he didn't report it. He's yelling at Gordo. Gordo's, I don't know, not.
He's doing his unsettling Joker smile again.
Yes, he is. Ed's not having any of it. They get into some insults here, and basically, Gordo kind of throws it in Ed's face. And so we get our first fight on the moon, everybody.
Does anybody ever get reminded of Trip from Enterprise whenever we see Gordo?
Yes. That's it.
Of course.
Right.
He's got like some Connor Trenier vibes going on.
They can easily be related. Yeah.
I gotta say though, like, what does it say about me that now that Gordo's all like disheveled and stubbly and crazy, I find him more attractive?
Well, we'll have to get the psychiatrist for that one, but
I'm gonna go with you're a woman, but
everyone's got whatever they like, and that's how it goes. But anyway, so
I like the character more that he's crazy now. So what does that say about me?
So they get into a fight here, Gordon and Ed throws Gordo into the ceiling. Because of the low gravity, he's just able to pick him up and throw him around. And then, Danielle kind of breaks it up and de-escalates this, after a little bit. But, that going on here. And so eventually Ed confines Gordo to the base. He's not allowed to take his suit out anymore. And which
Gordo's like, what are you going to do? Stop me?
Unhinged
another
laughter.
crazy smile.
Yeah. He's like, oh, you're going to take away my only thing that makes me happy? Okay, let's see how
I'm
this
going to
goes.
murder both of you in your sleep. That's what I'm going to do.
I can't do that, Dave. He's the real Hal.
Who's leaving.
Right.
Yeah, he's the real Hal. He's psychotic.
Is this... Yeah, he just starts laughing as he goes back to bed here. And they don't really know what to do with this.
And at this point, they're like, so we shouldn't have brought guns up here then. Okay, noted.
Do they have a gun?
No, probably not.
Oh.
I can't see why they would. That would be a major problem on his space shuttle, I think.
I guess, but how do we know the Russians didn't bring a gun?
Oh, the Russians, they definitely brought guns. They don't go anywhere without the AKs. Like, come on.
We then get a scene here back at NASA in Houston with Ellen and the warden from Shawshank, but not the warden from Shawshank. Kreishner, I think is his name, or something like that. The guy, the NASA guy. And he's like talking to Ellen about the FBI thinks you're a lesbian, and so is Larry, or Larry's gay. What do you, but he doesn't really care. It's not that he has a moral objection to this. He's just more like, the president's got too many scandals. I don't like this. We got to protect the administration. Basically, he kind of hints here to Ellen that, if her and Larry got married, all this will go away.
Oh, it's not even hints. He straight up says it.
Yeah, he basically says it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
do you want to be a married woman, or would you like to be not an astronaut? Which one?
You want to? Yeah,
which one is it?
Yeah.
Right. Then we go over here to NASA Control Center, November 26th. I think they're talking to Ed again on the headset here, while Danielle's trying to fix the VCR. And basically,
it's always the tracking button, just so you know.
Yeah, this is
That's how you fix any VCR.
we don't even know what they're trying to fix right away.
You
but-
probably don't even get that because you probably never used a VCR. Did
I
you?
used VCRs.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I'm the oldest of my brothers, and I broke it a whole bunch of times. I put jelly beans in it.
Oh.
I'm not. I knew my VCRs.
Apparently not. If you thought jelly beans went in there.
Yeah,
Well. I had to learn. Anyway, so Danielle tries to fix it to get because this is the only thing that makes Gordo happy. You know, what was going out and the Bob Newhart show, and it's like,
okay, that's not VHS. That's a beta.
that's a beta.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a beta.
Okay,
Betamax.
I never knew beta. It's before my time.
It was
Um,
smaller. It only had one window.
Everyone says it was better, but if it was
was
better,
better.
how come it didn't sell?
Commercially, it was better.
There you go. So they get the Bob Newhart show going, and Gordo is so happy. You know, at first they're watching the episode that they've watched so many times, but then it's not to last as it kind of all goes scrambled within a few minutes of them watching it, and Gordo is
Turn on the tracking button. That's all.
turn it off. He's even more broken than not, and yeah, they've lost the tape here. Poor Gordo. You know, he's got nothing.
He's a
left.
sad camper now.
Yeah.
He's like, you took my new heart away. You will all suffer.
They broke his Bob Newhart. So they come up with this thing here. Well, we don't have the videotapes anymore, so they kind of just reenact the episodes from the Bob Newhart show that they've watched over and over again. With Danielle playing the women parts and and Ed and Gordo kind of teaming up on some of the
How many
male
tapes
parts.
could they possibly have had though?
Yeah,
Probably not that many.
6.
They said 6. Yeah.
Oh, 6. Okay.
yeah. But
So
this is
that's
kind
2 hours piece. That's not bad.
this was kind of funny with them doing the dialogue and
Sure.
stuff, and them doing
Oh,
the
yeah.
laugh track as well with each other. So
Yeah, I thought that was a really fun scene.
Mhm.
And then we got a scene here a couple days later with Ed talking to his son Shane about how disappointed he is and how angry he is with
Yeah,
Shane
Father of the Year right here.
for disgracing the Baldwin name.
The whole family. You've disgraced the entire family.
And
Oh
what did
my
he do?
God.
What did he do for this one?
We don't even know, do we?
Did they even tell us what he did?
I don't think they get.
'Cause I know
into
later
specifics.
it was a theft.
They painted some lockers.
Oh, that's
They
right. He vandalized it, and
Vandalized some lockers.
they're going
Oh.
to charge them.
Yeah.
They're going to charge them $200 or something.
So Ed really lays it on pretty thick here, with Shane, and and you're supposed to be the man of the house while I'm away helping your mother, and
That's a
just
pretty sweet pressure for an 11-year-old.
yeah.
You got to be the man of the house. I'm on the moon,
Yeah.
damn it. Like,
Right. Well,
This was so sad. And then Shane started crying, and both his parents are like, "Stop crying, you little bitch."
yeah. Yeah.
Rough. Poor little fella.
I'm hoping
You're
Gordo
11
actually-
years old. Man up. Oh,
I'm
so
hoping
toxic.
Gordo just stabs this guy. I'm done now.
Gordo stabs
Treat.
Ed. Runs
Yeah.
away.
Just stab Ed. Be done with it. Throw him in the
Okay.
hole. No one's gonna find him.
Well, okay. Anyways, so then moving on, we go back to the moon after that. Here with Danielle and Ed, they're down in the crater, I guess, starting to pull out some of the ice things, and this is where they talk about Gordo. Should we be worried about Gordo? And Ed's like, nah, it's fine. He's strong. There's nothing to worry about. He talks about his time in Korea, where he got shot down in Korea, and how he, had to, like, he even got snippy with some of his superior officers once he was rescued. Kind of that PTSD, or however you want to describe it. And they said, go sort yourself out. They gave him a bottle of whiskey, and they said, don't come back until your head's straight. And I guess that's what Ed did. So Ed's just like, well, if we can get Gordo a bottle of whiskey, it will be fine. A little hard to do here on the moon, but that's Ed's approach to mental health management. It's just then, as they're having this conversation, that Danielle notices the tracks off to the side here, and we see that the Soviets have walked up here, up to their equipment, up to their place in the crater. And
I was hoping it was going to be just Gordo had been to the same place like 15 times. Always thinking he's been somewhere else.
Yeah. Or it would even be better if, like, in the distance, you see Gordo walking around.
I think it'd be.
They're like, wait.
I think it'd be funny if you had actually the Soviets there, but they had like when you would go golfing and you go in the sand trap, you needed to rake your footsteps out of there. They were just like raking away their steps.
That's not what I do when
or-
we golf, Dave.
Or you have
Wow.
the Soviets just poking their heads up from that one mound there, like, are they gone yet?
Oh,
Are they gone?
hello.
At least they're not drawing inappropriate designs like I do on the golf course. with Dave.
They drew a bunch of dicks on the moon. Anyway,
On the lunar surface.
so Ed calls back to the base, and we see here that they're using they're just writing on the paper. Video scrambling in place. Audio is more complicated. We'll take more time to get this. I guess their signal encrypted. Ed says no sign of tampering with our equipment. So what they're saying vocally and what they're writing to each other is a bit different. But he's ordered to begin surveillance of the Soviets. The Cold War continues on the moon, everyone. And we, Ed has got his mission here. Back at the outpost, this is where Ellen is telling Larry and Pam about the proposal she was given by the NASA director. Basically, why don't you get married? And I don't know. Larry and Ellen are more resigned to this, but Pam is very much not down with this plan at all. She gets very upset about the whole thing, and eventually, says, "If you do this, Ellen, I'm breaking up with you. Like, we're done. I can't. This is it."
Which I think is fair, and also for Ellen to be like, "Well, I mean, like, I'm getting married to somebody else, but it doesn't mean anything."
Right. It doesn't. Yeah. Why can't we?
It's cool. It's fine, Pam.
Yeah. Ellen wants both, but Pam does not. Pam would rather they just be who they are instead of trying to appease other people in society or whatever. And so Ellen then goes home alone. After this, she looks at her empty bed. I guess she's made her decision now that she's going to marry Larry and end her relationship with Pam. And then she looks out the window and she sees somebody spying on her.
I think this is the point she decided for sure.
Yeah, maybe she hasn't fully made up her mind. Yeah, at this point, but
no. When she sees that there's like an FBI guy who's at her house, like that's enough.
So she closes the curtains, locks the window. We see him drive away. When he notices, he sees that she notices him, and the fear, very real here. And yeah, that's how the scene ends. Back on the moon. So this is where Gordo wakes up Danielle and Ed in the middle of the night, and he's like, "Come on, we have to reenact Bob Newhart. We have to reenact Bob Newhart." Okay, you're, and they're like, "What's going on? What's happening?" He's like, "We have to play Bob Newhart right now. Come on, we have to, just like we did before. Wasn't that fun?" And they're like, "He has lost his damn mind." And
he starts doing it himself.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll do all the parts. Fine, if you're not going to do it, And then he starts sitting all the chairs and everything else here. And Ed and Danielle don't know what to do.
Yeah, man, you keep stepping on the joke.
Yeah, you're stepping on the joke, Ed. When Ed tries to confront him, and Gordo is so detached and so out of it, and doesn't know. So eventually, I think Ed just says, "Come on, man, snap out of it. Whatever. We'll go for a walk. We'll go outside. If that's going to make this better, then let's do that. We'll go out and take a spacewalk, right?" Maybe not the best decision considering what happens, but I guess it was worth a shot. As they head outside into their spacesuits, Ed and Gordo, they find a shaded spot sort of in the crater, and I don't know. It's this really melancholy kind of conversation here between the two of them about how it's not so much the frontier, and they're just living in a big house. They're playing house, is what Gordo keeps talking about. He wants to be out here on the frontier. He wants to go where no man has gone before. Pulling that line from Star Trek, and Ed says, "I get what you're saying, but like this is the beginning. Like we're not. It's not like there's still more to explore. We're at the edge of the universe here, but right now this is like kind of like the hard part of getting this established here. It's not going to be easy." And yeah, just I don't know. Gordo's losing his mind, going more and more thing, and they're looking off here into the crater, and then all of a sudden, Gordo thinks he has ants in his suit, right, from Danielle's ant farm,
It's a great shot, all fucking cross-eyed.
Yeah, like what, I got ants in my suit, and he starts trying to pull off his helmet, and he starts trying, to take things off, and which would have, kill him here in the vacuum of space. And Ed has to stop him and try to get through to him but Ed can only speak to him through the radio, through the comm systems between the suits, and try to rustle him to the ground here and get him to come back from this delusion. But yeah, Gordo's tapped out. Gordo needs to go home. I think what Ed is really coming to the conclusion here. So manages to get him to calm down so he doesn't pull off his suit, and then takes him back. But they get him back into Jamestown, and I think Gordo knows he's not well. Ed's just trying to decide what he wants to do, but he says he's going to have to tell Houston in the morning about this, that they're going to send Gordo and Danielle back is the plan at this point. Like Danielle, and Ed will stay here at the base until they can get the relief, right? But Gordo's got to go home. So then Gordo goes off to his bunk, and Danielle and Ed then have this conversation about how this is basically, once this comes out, this is going to end Gordo's career. He won't be able to go back to being a civilian pilot or anything. He'll lose it all from here, not just as an astronaut. So Danielle does not like that. So I guess she decides in the middle of the night she's going to give herself this injury where she's going to break her arm basically with a battery, so that it's going to seem that they had to come back for Danielle's medical emergency, not for Gordo's medical emergency. She does this to kind of cover up what the reality of it is here.
Well, I think she's like seeing her husband break down, and now she's seeing Gordo
yeah,
break
and I think going home for her makes sense anyway. But this was she didn't have to break her arm.
She was going home anyway.
She was going home anyway.
She's going home anyway, but she's doing this to keep Gordo's career
protect
going.
him. Yeah.
To protect him, and this person she's not had the best relationship with at all times, but that they're going to figure this out, and Ed's just like, what did you do, but they kind of understand that this is the code. They're going to protect each other in this way.
And she explicitly says here, Clayton's gone and he's not coming back, and if they ground Gordo, we're going to lose him too.
Right.
Yeah.
Not maybe not his life, but who he is, right? What makes him him. Yeah. So they don't tell about Gordo's breakdown. They're like, oh yeah, the broken arm thing. Yeah. The two astronauts come back. Ed, you're staying up there. Ed gets promoted to captain in the U.S. Navy, even though he hasn't been in the Navy for some time, or at least not actively. But he's getting
they're always. I think because they're naval pilots, they're just in a different branch.
Well, they're technically on loan. They're not in the military as part of NASA, but he's still in the military. I guess it's just the fact that he got promoted here in the middle of this mission kind of just seemed interesting to me. But it was, I think, because he's taking on this whole surveillance. Hello, kitty.
His name is Bob.
Hey,
so
Bob.
This is a really good time to have him on. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Sorry.
Hi, Bob.
But Ed's going to be up here surveilling the Soviets at their base up here. So I guess that's Teddy Kennedy promoted him to captain here. So good job, Captain. And okay, I just want to understand the logistics here and what happens, because Gordo and Danielle and Ed all go up to the capsule, which is in orbit around the moon, right? Did they take the
So
yeah,
the excursion module is the one that launches off of the moon back to the LEM, or not
right.
the LEM,
the
other part, the module.
I get that
module.
part, but once they go up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ed then can come back down.
Yes,
And
it would appear so. Yeah,
he's going to take them to the escape pod. There's nothing.
No, I realize that. I guess what I'm trying to understand is the LEM, right? How many times can it go up and down? How much fuel does it have?
As much fuel as it needs to do that, I guess. I would assume at this point they have a storage of fuel.
It's not going to have to go up again.
Well, when Ed leaves, is it going to have to go up again?
No.
No.
Where is he going to go in that? the thing to go to is gone.
Right.
Yeah, he has to go.
When
with
they
the
bring the
ship.
next ship, they'll have another one.
There'll be another lander.
And there will be a
Right.
seat for him now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so Ed says goodbye here to Bob and Bob. They say hi, bye, Bob, bye, Bob. And they all have a good laugh here as Danielle and Gordo cast off here, and they close this up.
And they also make reference to Bohica.
Yeah, Bohica, which is bend over, here it comes again,
Yes.
which is a naval thing, which apparently Danielle was only pretending to know what it meant for all this time. Because she's not Navy. All right. So then Ed says goodbye to his compatriots as he goes back down to the moon by himself. Gordo then thanks Danielle here as they're heading back. It's kind of a moment between them. And Ed ends up back here at Jamestown all by himself. At least he does,
Oh, it must look a lot better or a lot bigger than just with the three of them in that little space.
Yeah, at least you get some room to yourself.
And the other thing about they like, there's no privacy here. They know, like, the conversation between the kids and Clayton and everything's all known between the three of them. What's going on?
It's like one room basically, this whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 10 days later, we catch up here with the Baldwins, Karen and Shane on December 14th. It's right before Christmas, 1974. Shane has yet again done something. Stole something.
Stole baseball cards.
Baseball cards. Karen's pissed off at him about it. She grounds him until Christmas.
But takes an opportunity to say, your dad is doing great things and you're a shit.
Yeah, your dad's on the moon by himself, and you're stealing baseball cards?
This chick is garbage.
Well, Shane.
Oh, I meant to mention this during the scene itself, but when they're having the video call with Ed in space and he's giving Shane shit for being a disappointment to the Empire or whatever, he says, and right before Thanksgiving too.
Oh yeah,
like right before Thanksgiving, like that has a huge impact on.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you bring this shame upon our family right before Thanksgiving?
How can we eat our turkey and our stuffing?
Yeah,
you've betrayed your uniform.
You betrayed your uniform. But like
it ends here. The line ends here. No fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Shane. Shane's not even allowed to go to his basketball game, and he has, he starts throwing stuff. He has a bit of a tantrum here, and then Karen slaps him across the face.
Just smacks her 11-year-old right across the face. No shame.
I've been on the receiving end of that.
That's the way it was done back then. We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
This was very much what I know. Anyway. If I talk back to my mother, I was getting it across the face every time. I'm telling you. And so then Karen leaves. I'm like, I don't think you know how grounding works, Karen. I think you have to keep the kid.
She's got to get to the PTA meeting because A, her name is Karen, so that's automatic. You have to be at the PTA meeting, and B, her name's Karen, so she's got to go bitch when she's at the PTA meeting. So
Karen leaves in the station wagon.
I love that Country Squire station wagon. That's
yep.
amazing.
Oh, you gotta love the paneling, eh? Anyway, so then
I love everything about that car.
Shane back in his room here. He's got like this little door thing on here. Apollo 15 and a half. Presumably his dad made this for him, and he decides he's not going to stay grounded. He puts on his basketball uniform and he decides to take out his bike and go to his practice or game or whatever it is for the Spartans. Back on the moon, Ed is by himself here. He's in his spacesuit, heading over to the solar panels. Great shot here of the crater and the Earth and everything else. We also have Danielle, who's now back at Houston, talking with the astronauts. Got her arm in a sling.
And her pause here before she went into the room was pretty good, I thought.
Well, yeah, I didn't quite understand what the pause was about.
Yeah, why?
Because she knows everybody's going to look at her like the silly woman who broke her arm and had to come home because
she had to come home early because
aren't
of this.
good enough.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even occur to me, but okay. Yep. So she heads in. And then Gordo did not go to the meeting. He's just at home watching Columbo and drinking beers. And
I'm going to tell you right now, if I've been in space for as long as this dude was, and when I got back, I would be super chill on the couch doing that.
You'd be watching Columbo too?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Would have been awesome if it was Newhart.
Yeah.
No, he turns on Newhart and he's like, "Oh, this is garbage. Why did I watch this?
This is the only kid on the moon."
Oh, here's the other thing. When all this is happening, there's a song playing.
Someday Never Comes by CCR. Amazing song.
Good song.
I knew it from Sons of Anarchy. Is it from?
It was in Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, but it's a great song. I think like every now and then they shoot like the music in this show is really really cool because they usually go out with something, but it's another sad song, right? And all this is going on.
It's about a dad going to prison and everything, right? Yeah. So. Anyway, and then we see here Ellen and Larry, they getting married. I don't know who this witness is in the stands, but it seems they just went to like the justice.
That's
of the
probably
peace.
the 4:30 marriage right there.
It must be.
She's waiting. She's waiting her turn.
You know, I thought this was interesting that they did it this way because, like, again, like she comes from this big high, like this old money family, right? So that they would at least, have more of a traditional wedding.
I think it very much illustrates how much neither of them want to do this.
Right.
Yeah, dude,
they
they're
both
not
have
celebrating.
super grim faces on, and
She's got like massive bags under her eyes, and
has obviously been crying. And they're just doing it to keep up appearances.
Yeah. And Pam's back at just doing her job at the bar, seemingly moved on with her life too.
Brokenhearted.
Brokenhearted. What becomes of the brokenhearted? And then Karen comes home. There's a cop car in her driveway.
The cop is there because I was wondering why it took them so long to run to the car.
No,
But they're at the front door right now.
They're at the front door when she comes home.
I thought they were in the house for a second there.
And they say, "Is Shane your son?" And she goes, "What has he done now, officers?" "Well, there's been an accident, ma'am." And that is our cliffhanger for the episode. No spoilers for episode 8. So that is the episode in plot. It was a bit of a heavy one, a bit of a sad one. But there may be more facts we don't understand, right, Adam? There might be.
We do have some facts,
some details.
Fun
facts. I love
With Adam.
There we go. Okay, guys, let's start with first of all Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart. There was actually a show. The phrase "Hi Bob" became a source of a popular drinking game among college students during the run of the show. Whenever someone said Bob, each player had to take a drink. If someone said, "Hi, Bob," you had to guzzle your whole drink.
So basically, alcohol-related deaths went up like insanely because of Bob Newhart.
Probably. But Bob Newhart, was a comedy giant back then. So let's take about his roles. He was all over the place, but so he started with the show 1972, 1978. It had a long run, all kinds of Emmys. He had comedy albums. He was on Carol Net countless times. Anyway, then in the 80s, and I reference something called, I Am Larry, this is my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. It was the Bob Newhart show where he was an innkeeper in Vermont. And that show,
that was in the 80s, right?
That was in the 80s. That's the one I kind of watched.
I know that one, yeah.
That ran from 82 to 90. My goodness. I didn't watch it that many years, but the brother, hi, my name is Larry, my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. That was like a key line from the 80s that everybody knew.
And that's from that show too?
Yeah, that's why I posted that earlier on our chat.
So this is his whole bit, Bob Newhart, about
No. It wasn't from the 70s show. The Bob Newhart show in the 70s, he played a psychiatrist. The Newhart show. In the Bob Newhart show, let me just make sure I got that right.
The Bob Newhart one is the one in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, pardon me. The Bob Newhart show was one in the 70s. Newhart was the one in the 80s, and he was an innkeeper.
Okay.
Then he was on all kinds of stuff in the 80s and 90s. Then he really got rejuvenated on an episode of ER where he played a doctor and got another Emmy for his role there. And
I
then
remember that episode, yeah.
Then he started playing he was well into his 80s now. He started playing roles on Big Bang.
Professor.
Oh, yeah, he was the professor.
Proton, right. And Young Sheldon. Anyway, he's coming up on his anniversary of his death in July. He was 90-something, 95 years old or something. So he had a long career and was well loved by many, for sure.
Is he still alive?
No, he died in June. Like he's coming up on his year anniversary of his death.
Oh, okay. He died last year,
yeah. So, what else do I have for you here? Give me a second.
Well,
okay, we didn't talk about it during our discussion there, but there was a conversation about who owns the moon.
nobody.
Well, that's absolutely true. There's actually an International Astronomical Union, the IAU. Basically, there was a rule that no one can own the moon. It's there for mankind, not for a particular nation state. So,
Would you say it's for all mankind?
For all mankind. Now, I don't believe for a second that would be true if somebody decided they're going to.
Oh, if the states went up there tomorrow and said, okay, this is ours now, who's going to fight them?
Well,
Like,
as the Artemis mission comes closer, and we'll see what happens with Mars.
yeah, that's true.
Like it would seem like with all the real estate you have on the moon, like it would take a while before you would even have a conflict between claimants, unless there was a certain resource that was in the same place, which I guess is what they're trying to give us here with this crater in the show, right, with the water and everything else. But I was just learning about the far side of the moon, the side we don't see, the other day. And the side we do see has all those like dark spots, and those are like volcanoes apparently. And then the other side, it doesn't have any of that. It's all like impact craters, and that's where like the Chinese just landed something. And it's fascinating, really, like how much is going on with the moon.
Yep. We talked about we saw some psychological issues with Gordo, obviously, tonight. And astronaut candidates are screened for psychological issues early on. So instances of anything happening when somebody's on orbit is pretty rare because they're pretty much screened and probably dropped out of the program. As Mars is coming up, they're doing it again. The Soviets always had psych evaluations shortly before a mission, with cosmonaut psychologists giving official approval along with their physicians before letting them lift off. But coming home from space often caused issues, including appetite and sleep problems or alcohol use, but nothing seriously, save for Buzz Aldrin's own alcoholism, which he attributed to his time in space. So I don't know. Just we talked about the VCR. So it was invented or it came to market in 1974. But really didn't become, like I said, you couldn't get it at Sears or Radio Shack until like the 80s. And funny enough, I remember my mom and my dad arguing whether to get Beta or VHS. My mom went out and got us VHS, which was the right decision, Mom, if you're listening tonight.
Depends on if it was the right decision or not, because Beta was better.
It was better, but it didn't last.
No.
And the other...
In 1974, NASA could have got a Beta machine then, or a VCR?
Well,
Sure.
Beta existed.
Yeah.
Okay, Beta already existed.
Broadcast video was done on Beta.
Beta actually was 1975.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have happened in this timeline, but yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And then the first video store, because I was curious about that, actually was in LA in this 1978.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's all the fun facts I have tonight, guys. It wasn't really a fun episode. It was a hard episode for me.
Sad facts with Adam.
Thank you, Adam. All right. Well, that's our time for our ratings. Let's put down a score for this episode. How much did we enjoy it? Jody, you're up first.
I'm going to go 7 on this one.
Okay. Adam.
I think it was a necessary episode. I mean, Heather, you said it best, or I guess because the way you said it, you've seen it. they're building some clear links to stuff coming up. So I'm going to give this a 7.5. I had a hard. I didn't love it.
That's me. Okay. I would say, like, I think the episode is necessary. I agree. It's not necessarily the most rewatchable episode. You know, I think like in the story of the season you need it, but I think as a standalone it's a little lacking. But so yeah, like 7.5 is fine. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Kevin?
7.5.
All right. Heather.
I'm going to give it, I was going to say 7.5, but I was so disappointed by the fact that there was a wedding and nobody wore anything nice that I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though that's what I would wear to my fake heterosexual wedding as well, because that's what she felt like on the inside too, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. So, but you still deducted the points nonetheless.
I did. That's right. I'm a harsh critic.
That's the exact reason why I did too.
Okay. Well, thank you both. Okay, I thought we have a score there. Okay, well that concludes our review, our discussion for Hi Bob, the 7th episode of season 1 of For All Mankind. We are now looking ahead to episode 8, titled Rupture. And we obviously have this cliffhanger here with Shane Baldwin, so we're gonna get to that next week.
How many episodes are in the first season here?
10.
10.
So we have 3 episodes left.
By the episode title Rupture, I'm sure a lot of really fun and light things happen.
Oh my God, this is just going to get
has
worse.
A nice time.
Well, the final episode of the season is called A City Upon a Hill, which sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think I'm going to get my own space madness if I have to keep getting the sorrow episodes going on.
Yeah, Ronald D. Moore, he really went for the emotional aspects.
And I did look it up. The guy is from The Office. He played Ralph. He was in 4 episodes.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
I was right.
Jody. Also, we'll be talking about on every Thursday we do Star Trek: The Next Generation. We're almost done season 2. We're coming up to season 2, episode 17 this Thursday, titled Samaritan Snare. With the Packers.
You are smart.
We look for things.
We look for things
to make us go.
You can make us go.
Yeah. So, who we got on this week? I think
I'm on that one.
I think Jody's on. No,
not me. Till next week.
I can't remember right now. People are coming. We'll be talking about it, and it will be lots of fun. Tune in and listen.
Tell me if I'm supposed to be there, please.
I will. Next week, I'm going to be off Next Gen because I'm going to be doing the Hey, Did You See This One? We're reviewing Jumanji for Stephen Waters' birthday. So I've asked Jaemeel to come in and guest host for Up the Long Ladder. So he's...
Oh, yeah. Everyone's favorite episode coming right up.
You couldn't get Ferrick to do it?
It's like 3 a.m. for him. So it
still would have been way more funny if he was doing the hosting, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can get him. But
especially for that episode.
Yeah, up. He was like, it's quite lovely. It's not as bad as you think, and that's my Sean Ferrick leprechaun accent.
Yeah, Dave, if Strange New Worlds is on Thursdays, which it probably will be, what are we going to do?
We'll be putting TNG probably on hiatus for 10 weeks. But my hope is we'll finish up season 2 of TNG, which with Strange New Worlds starting up in July. I feel like we'll have no problem with that.
We'll have time.
Yeah, we only have a few episodes left of season 2, so we might even be able to start season 3 before we even have to break for Strange New Worlds, potentially. But yeah, that's what we got on the plan here. What else? You were on last night. Were you with the Locutors of Trek doing a Class L Pro?
I had such a great time with those guys. We had a very good conversation around a couple things, and I encourage you to go back. It was great. Good podcast.
Yeah, it's been a while since you guys had one, but I have to listen to it still. But thanks for doing that. We'll have to check that out. All right, and then Wednesday, Survivor finale on Super Mario Brothers podcast.
Nobody cares.
No. No.
What season now, Dave? I always have to ask this question.
40. We're almost done for the 48th season, and we'll be getting a preview of season 49.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
How many episodes are in a season, Dave?
13.
13.
It's like just be happy for me that I will get to have Wednesday nights back
Boy, am I happy for you.
Thank you, Jody.
I am. I am
just unrelenting positivity from Jody Simpson once again.
I'm just happy that you don't have to watch that drivel on Wednesdays.
What's that drivel?
Hey, can I just mention one thing about the launching probes with Dave and Davin?
Sure.
So Dave always goes to some philosophical place, and last night he didn't disappoint. He referenced the oration on the dignity of man, which was written by Pico della Mirandola, which is an Italian philosopher. So I went and read. Dave is just an interesting guy who takes the podcast in a great direction, and I enjoy it so much. But he, again, didn't disappoint last night.
But not this Dave, the other one.
Dave Puxley.
Yes.
When I go on that show, I'm always referred to as Cousin Dave, and he gets just to be Dave. And I'm like, so
he's the OG Dave, apparently.
He's the OG Dave, apparently. Yeah. Okay, well, check that out. Check out the Davin, Dave, and Adam podcast on the Class L Probe, and and Trivial Debates this Sunday. Ninja Turtles theme, guys. So, and I'm hosting.
I already told you the answer to all the questions. I already win, and I'm not even on the panel.
We're doing like, what's the best Ninja Turtle movie? What's the most outrageous aspect of the TV show from the 80s?
That it existed.
That they're turtles who are ninjas.
That's the biggest problem you guys got with that.
Actually, I was watching it the other day. Okay, the cartoon, and. Okay, if you watch the movie, right, like the 1990 movie with the Jim Henson like animatronics, in that the turtles are all like 6 foot tall, right? And I'm watching the cartoon like yesterday.
They're shorter and
they're like these small little like little people turtles. Like they're all like.
If you want a real blast, look at the original comic for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before it became the show, because it was brutally violent, like brutally violent.
I've never checked.
And they all had red headbands.
Yeah, before they did the color to differentiate them and whatever. But yeah. So anyway, Turtle Power, everybody, this Sunday, check it out. All right,
it's Donatello.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, we're gonna sign off for tonight. For all of mankind, and Kevin, Jody, Adam, Heather, and regrets from Jeff Mader, who's tired from building a gazebo.
He doesn't have any regrets at all. What it's actually is going on is the Leafs lost last night.
Yes,
and
he's licking his wounds.
He's still crying while holding his Matthews jersey. That's what's happening.
That's actually accurate, Jody. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Live long and podcast, and we'll see you next time here.
Good night. Bye, Bob.
Hi, I'm Sean Ferrick from Trek Culture, and you are watching Live Long and Podcast.